Hello, and welcome to Entropy-Defiant Gaming. Today I am playing Constitutional Compromise. This game, I actually I showed it briefly here in this little video. This video I did for 4th of July 2025. It has a number of 4th of July themed video games, including Constitutional Compromise. I think I show a few seconds of it, but tonight I'm going to play more of it, or today I should say. And so if you're interested, Constitutional Compromise will come first, followed by this one, Race to Ratify. So Constitutional Compromise, that just to give you a little bit of the background, the Constitutional Convention was actually May 25th to September 17th, 1787. Now, the American Revolution ran from 1775 to 1783. This says 1765. For some reason, somebody's gone through and vandalized Wikipedia. Anyway, 1775 to 1783 was the American Revolution, and then a few years after the Revolution ended, the Constitutional Convention began, and it ran a few months. I believe 4 months, and but this game, Constitutional Compromise, it occurs after the Revolution has ended, and the United States realized that it needed a few changes, and so they decided to initially they decided to revise the Articles of Confederation, but in the end they came up with an entire new constitution for the United States. And that is what this game is about. And if you're interested in after that, Race to Ratify is about the ratification after it had already, after the form of the Constitution had more or less been decided upon. So here we go. I'm going to play Constitutional Compromise. And I probably won't play the whole game, but I'll at least show you some of it.
Hi there, and welcome to Philadelphia. You are about to engage with the ideas from the Constitutional Convention of 1787. While the game is based on real debates and historical arguments, this is not a reenactment. Your goal is to work with the ideas presented to create compromises that can move the convention forward. Not all compromises are or were the ideal outcomes. At the end, you will discover how your work compares to what really happened. The Articles of Confederation created a central government to win the war and unite the new states. It was so weak that it lacked the money to pay federal employees, as well as massive war debts. Revolutionary War veterans did not even receive their pensions. Congress wanted to review the Articles to see if they could be fixed, giving our young country a better chance at success. Delegates from 12 of the 13 states met in Philadelphia and decided to start over from scratch. They invited General George Washington to Philadelphia to lead the convention. The 55 men gathered here were only a slice of our nation's diverse population. While everyone in 1787 was interested in the convention, men without land, women, youth, enslaved people, free people of color, and members of tribal nations were not allowed to participate. Excluding these voices influenced the debates, compromises, and our nation's history in countless ways. Select a topic below to get some important context before you jump into the debate. General Washington will take you from there.
Alright, so let's see what it says here.
After the American Revolution, the states realized that the limited government created under the Articles of Confederation needed to be revised. State delegates met in Philadelphia to address the issues of the young nation.
Our current government struggles to collect taxes, protect itself, and make important decisions. There is agreement that things need to change. But how? We must also make sure states keep some of their independence. Can we unite the country while respecting state decision-making power? Now let's hear from the delegates.
There are great concerns over both the clear weaknesses of our current government and the risk of overcorrecting. More power in the central government means less power for the states. We are large and still growing. How can one government balance the interest of a population that spans such a wide area with such diverse needs?
Our country must have enough powers in the national government to remain united and strong. We need to collect money through taxes, a strong military force, and a way to support a court system. All these powers should live in a Congress that can make the best decisions for the nation as a whole.
It sounds like these approaches are in conflict. We can use this to craft a compromise that allows us to move forward with the convention. But before you build out a compromise using the delegates' ideas, let's hear more.
Our new government must be limited. Its power should be divided with checks and balances, and the states must keep control over their own business.
The power to raise taxes should be given to Congress. We need to create federal courts and establish a standing army. Our current government is not large enough to address the needs of the people. We must grow.
Here's more to consider. A powerful central government should not be limited in any way. Getting too detailed is risky. Let's leave the plan for government open for interpretation. Now that there are some ideas to work with, start building out a compromise that works.
Okay, so I'm gonna turn it down a little. So this is, of course, constitutional compromise, and there are lots of different ways that the Constitution could have turned out. Now, if you did watch my video, Race to Ratify, you may remember that there were two factions. I'm not sure if the factions rose before or after the Constitution was written, but the two factions were the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists. So I believe George Mason was an Anti-Federalist, James Madison was a Federalist. And more or less, one of the big defining ideas was that the Federalists were in favor of a stronger central government, while the Anti-Federalists wanted a weaker central government. So this was probably the key defining issue at the time of the Constitution. So let us go ahead and see what compromise we might have come up with and what we did come up with. Okay, so select 3 ideas for compromise. So what's this? Okay, limited government. You can put that down.
Yeah.
Should be bigger. So as you can see, this little graph here, it shows that it has to be in the green for them to make it to agree on the Constitution. So it's a little off to the red. So if all we said is this, then they wouldn't agree to it. So let's see what else. No limits on power.
Those 2 ideas are in conflict.
Oh, look at that.
Pick one to remove.
So I can't put both of them on there, so I think I'll grab this. Okay, how about this one? How about that? A broad approach to shaping the new government. How about increase the scope? Okay, so design a limited government with checks and balances, take a broad approach to shaping the new government, and increase the size and duties of the federal government. So this is one possibility. What are some of the others? There's also...
Those 2 ideas are in conflict. Pick one to remove.
And it does give you these... come here. Gives... I think if you click on it... How does that work? I'm trying to remember. Well, anyway, sometimes it shows you the... Oh, there. Approach... government. It shows you the definitions of some of these. Okay, so if I put delegate powers on here...
Those 2 ideas are in conflict.
Says it's in conflict.
Pick one to remove.
Broad approach to shaping the new government, or powers need to be delegated clearly. So how are we going to do this? So let's take this one. So we could... I think we still need one more. Okay, so this is one that they can both agree on as well, and I think this is what the Constitution ended up being. Limited government with checks and balances. Powers need to be delegated clearly, like taxation and the military, and increase the size and duties of the federal government. Now let's go for it.
I see there is now a path forward.
Proposal for the Constitution. This is what we just chose.
Let's take a look at how this proposal compares to what actually happened at the convention.
So here's what the historical Constitution, and yes, that is what I went with as well. So
Consensus was there all along. Congress needed the power to tax, and the new central government needed to be stronger without destroying the states. All agreed, if begrudgingly, that the country needed a national perspective on the courts and trade, and an executive that could lead the standing army. The disagreements came in the details.
the details.
This set up our federalist system of shared powers. Some powers are reserved for the states, while others are granted to the national government. Our nation's history is full of the tensions that can be found between the federal government and the states.
Select a topic below to get some important context before you jump into the debate.
Next, representational power. Okay. I think this is about...
As delegates built the new national government, they also worked to get the best deal for their home state. The smaller states with smaller populations wanted to keep things on equal footing, while the larger states wanted to make the most of their size, wealth, and population.
So yes, I believe this is the Congress.
The Congress created under the Articles isn't effective. It lacks the powers needed for a country to be strong and united. The Articles give each state the same power of a single vote. The bigger states with larger populations argue that is unfair. How can we find balance in our legislative branch? Let us now hear from the delegates.
New Jersey is small. We propose that we keep the single House of Congress as we have under the Articles of Confederation. Each state sends the same number of representatives to Congress. If we move to having representation based on population, states with small votes may fade away. No state should have more power over another.
We propose a Congress with two houses. Each state sends a number of representatives based on its population. We think proportional representation is the best way to make sure Congress reflects the people. Having a lot of people in your state should give you more of a voice in decisions.
It sounds like these approaches are in conflict. But before you build out a compromise using the delegates' ideas, let's hear more.
We should maintain the single House of Congress. And each state should have the same number of votes.
No, we need two houses of Congress. And if a state has more people, it should have more votes.
Here's more to consider. Have part of Congress be based on population, and the other part based on equal representation. Wealthy states should have more representation than poorer states. Now that there are some ideas to work with, start building out a compromise that works.
Okay, so once again we have James Madison and now Mason. Mason has been replaced with William Patterson. So, what should we do here? Two houses of Congress. Should they have proportional representation or wealth representation? There's a lot of choices here. Let's see what happens. Let's try that. Looks like they agree on that. How about that? Well, looks like they'll agree. keep a single house for the legislature with state wealth determining state votes. That seems... I'm going to do it anyway, just to show you that in this game, you can come up with pretty much anything you want, even if it's not necessarily that good.
There's now a path forward.
So there it is, a single house. So the United States actual Congress has two houses, the House of Representatives and the Senate. And it's not determined by wealth. It's determined by the House of Representatives is determined by state population. The Senate, and with the Senate, each state gets 2 senators. So
let's take a look at how this proposal compares to what actually happened at the convention.
So in reality, Congress was split in 2 chambers, and Congress used both approaches to representation. So,
interesting approach. Imagine what our nation might look like today if they had gone in that direction. In the end, both small and large state delegates gained a chamber of Congress that reflected their interest. The Senate had equal representation, while the House of Representatives reflected the population differences. As the population of individual states grows or declines, the House changes. The 2020 census resulted in 6 states gaining 1 or 2 seats in the House, and 7 states losing 1 seat.
Select a topic below to get some important context before you jump into the debate. General Washington will take you from there.
now something else interesting I believe I learned about the houses of Congress. The Senate, each state gets 2 senators, always. So as long as there's more states in the United States, there'll just be more senators in Congress. But I believe that the House of Representatives is different. They capped the total maximum number at 435 representatives. So regardless of how many people or how many states there are, there will never be more than 435 members of the House of Representatives. Very interesting little tidbit there. Okay, so how is population determined? I believe this is where it starts getting into some of the slavery issues, which actually, slavery was a very important issue. Even at the time of the Declaration of Independence, slavery was a central issue, and the Declaration of Independence was almost not even made because of slavery.
While the word slavery isn't in the Constitution, the institution played a major role in the debates that created the document. At least 25 of the 55 delegates in Philadelphia owned enslaved people at some point. They were all white, and their debate over representation did not engage the humanity of the almost 700,000 enslaved people across the states. The delegates in the room were focused solely on the power that population could give one state over another.
Rather interesting.
A state's population is an important number. It is one way to represent a state's value to the nation, and more people means more power in the House of Representatives. Slavery complicates things. How should enslaved people be included in the population count? If counted, states with large enslaved populations will seize lawmaking power. And while all states gain wealth from a large unpaid labor force, most northern states have few enslaved people. Let's now hear from the delegates.
Slavery violates our values as a republic, and it is immoral. How can some delegates claim that slaves are property but include them in the larger population count?
Including slaves gives some southern states more power than states with few or no enslaved people.
Counting slaves is also unfair to states like mine.
The institution of slavery is critical to the economies of the southern states, including mine. Some delegates are willing to walk away from this convention if that institution is threatened. If we can't base the number of representatives on the full population, we should consider partial counts of the enslaved population done in the articles.
It sounds like these approaches are in conflict. We can use this to craft a compromise that allows us to move forward with the convention. But before you build out a compromise using the delegates' ideas, let's hear more.
We must not count any enslaved people when determining representation.
We should count all enslaved people when determining representation. I think we should use the same approach as the Articles of Confederation.
Here's more to consider. Count a set portion of the enslaved population as part of the represented population. Instead of counting people for representation, count the wealth of the states. Count the enslaved people as part of the represented population, but only for a certain number of years. Now that there are some ideas to work with, start building out a compromise that works.
Okay. Very interesting. So, should we count the slaves for representation or not? Now, here's something interesting to think about, because what they're talking about, they count the number of slaves, but they don't count the interests of the slaves. The slaves don't actually get a vote. So that's an interesting consideration to make. Count wealth, not people. How's this one? How was it counted? I don't know.
Those two ideas are in conflict.
Yeah, I figured.
Pick one to remove.
What if we do this? Now, he does not like this. So how about we go, because I don't think, I'm not sure if... Oh, maybe they'll go with this one. But we're going to go back and I believe they were counted. Counted for time. I think this is what happened, actually, because I believe that, if I remember right, they said that it may have been this game that I learned that they specifically said in the Constitution that 20 years later, slavery was to be outlawed. I believe that's what happened.
I see there is now a path forward.
Let's take a look at how this proposal compares to what actually happened in the convention.
Okay. So here's what I did. Enslaved people count for... include enslaved people for now, but agree to end it later. So I guess what actually happened was stick with how the population was counted. But like I said, I'm pretty sure there was a decision that 20 years after the Constitution, slavery would be outlawed. Pretty sure about that. Okay, so in reality, stick with how population was counted for the Articles of Confederation. I'm not sure how that was. And agree on a smaller amount of the enslaved population to count. So I'm not exactly sure what that means. But
That approach would have changed history. The compromise counted 3/5 of the enslaved population for representation, but did not grant freedom or political rights. The southern states used their outsized power to make sure that they'd benefit politically from their large enslaved populations. Doing so gave them a legislative advantage in the House and tipped the scales for presidential elections. Not undone until the abolition of slavery in 1865, the 3/5 compromise had a lasting impact on the legal, economic, and social structures in our nation.
Select a topic below. 11 years may have passed since the start of the American Revolution, but no one had forgotten what it was like to live under a monarch who had become a tyrant. No one wanted that again, but all agreed that someone needed to be in charge, maybe more than one person. But leaving things to a weak and decentralized Congress wasn't working.
As a vision for a new kind of government takes shape, attention turns to a missing piece: the national executive role. We need a general authority to execute or carry out national laws. But who? A single leader? A group? How would it work? What's the selection process? What were the terms of office? There is so much to discuss and debate. Let's hear from the delegates.
We need someone who has the authority to make decisions quickly, but does not have too much power. We also need a stable leader who can make the difficult decisions needed for a strong and united country.
As representatives of our states, we must focus on protecting our interests and power in this new national government. There is still a fear that one man in power would end up like a king, and no one wants that. Imagine one man leading an army of his very own.
It sounds like these approaches are in conflict. But before you build out a compromise using the delegates' ideas, let's hear more.
We propose that a single person should serve as the executive. And the executive should be selected by Congress with a longer term of office.
No, a group of people should serve as the executive. And the executive must be selected by the people, but with a shorter term of office.
Here's more to consider. State governments make plans for how they will select the leader, with 4-year terms. Now that there are some ideas to work with, start building out a compromise that works.
Okay, so solo leadership or group leadership is what William Patterson wanted. So let's see what happens. And he does not want this. He does not want a group. A group of people chosen by the people is best. What if we do both?
Those two ideas are in conflict. Pick one to remove.
Well, we have a president and he has a cabinet, so isn't that a panel of people that they're all in the executive branch? So, no, we'll go with this. But should the people pick, or leave it to the states, or Congress picks? State legislators determine the selection method for 4-year terms, and that was another thing. The president's term of office, there were a number of suggestions. It could have been 7 years instead of 4. I think 5 years was also proposed. And I think Alexander Hamilton said the president should be president for life. That probably wouldn't have been a good thing, but anyway. Okay, so this is something they're willing to agree on, and I think this is more or less what we ended up with, because we have an electoral college. Now, if I remove this, the people pick instead. Leaders selected by the people and serve shorter terms. Yeah, I think this is more or less what the final decision was. The electoral congress.
I see there is now a path forward.
Sorry, electoral college. Okay, so
Let's take a look at how this proposal compares to what actually happened at the convention.
yeah. So yeah, the electoral congress, electoral college ended up being the way that it's decided, instead of the people deciding with a popular vote.
You must have read your civics books. There were many, many additional conversations around the national executive. These set up more details for our new president and the executive branch. And our first president, George Washington, set a precedent for many more things that we've come to know as presidential.
Select a topic below to get some important context before you jump into the debate. Some states relied heavily on people trafficked from Africa. They wanted to ensure state governments remained in control of decisions relating to the transatlantic slave trade. The delegates, more than half of them slaveholders, focused on the powers of the states, the economic system of slavery, and the unity of the new government over the humanity of those trafficked.
This debate looks at the shifting power between the states and the federal government. All states benefit financially from the trade in enslaved people and the free use of their labor. Some delegates take a personal stand against the practice of slavery. Others, from states where slavery is common, threaten to leave the convention if the federal government bans the importation of enslaved people. Will the Constitution regulate the importation of enslaved people, or will it be left to the states to decide? Over to the delegates!
Allowing the slave trade to continue is not the best direction for this new nation. Some states like Georgia and South Carolina may protest and threaten to leave our union, but it is an empty threat. Allowing this to continue is dishonorable to the national character and is not in line with the principles of the Revolution.
It is better that we allow the continued importation of enslaved people than to lose Georgia and South Carolina. We need broad support for this Constitution. While some states don't engage with the institution of slavery or the importation of humans, all benefit from the trade of goods and wealth created from it.
It sounds like these approaches are in conflict. But before you build out a compromise using the delegates' ideas, let's hear more.
We must address the importation of enslaved people in the Constitution. The Constitution should clearly ban the importation of enslaved Africans to the United States.
We cannot include the issue of the slave trade in the Constitution. And we must allow the slave trade to continue or risk a failed Constitution. We could also leave this to the states to decide how to deal with the trade.
Here's more to consider. Use the Constitution to delay any laws that ban the slave trade. Now that there are some ideas to work with, start building out a compromise that works.
Okay, so add it or leave it out. Keep it, the trade, or ban it. Let the states decide. I think, like I said, I think this is I think this might be the way it goes. I'm not sure. I think this is what happens, but let's see.
I see there is now a path forward.
Let's take a look at how this proposal compares to what actually happened at the convention.
Yeah, okay, so this is, yeah.
You really have a read on this debate. The eventual compromise kept the southern states in the conversation and the union. The delegates wrote the agreement so that there was a possibility to ban the importation of enslaved people in the future. The ban took effect in 1808, yet the illegal importation of people from Africa and the Caribbean continued, and trade of enslaved people within the nation's borders grew. It took another 57 years, a bloody civil war, and the 13th Amendment for the institution of slavery to end in the U.S.
So yeah, the United States officially banned slavery in 1808, but the southern states continued with it.
Select a topic below.
Let's see.
Even as British citizens, colonists had individual rights and protection from the government, like the right to a jury trial. After gaining independence from the British, many states had individual rights listed in their state constitutions. This tradition carried into the convention and heavily impacted the ratification debates that followed.
With the final draft of the Constitution underway, another issue was raised, and it was a big one. Some wanted to see a Bill of Rights, commonly found in existing state constitutions. Adding a Bill of Rights might help with ratification, but after 4 long months, will the delegates agree to work a little longer? We will need to work out which rights should be included. Let's hear from the delegates.
State constitutions already have bills of rights protecting us. The powers of the new government are listed and specific. The government lacks the power to, say, suspend freedom of speech or take away the right to a jury trial. Listing some rights could also bring attention to the ones that aren't listed, and we can't possibly list every individual right.
The state constitutions won't protect the people's rights because the new government is supreme over state law. The powers of Congress are vague and broad. A Bill of Rights will remind us that the government is designed to protect an individual's freedom. The people will be more comfortable with the new, much stronger central government.
It sounds like these approaches are in conflict. We can use this to craft a compromise that allows us to move forward with the convention. But before you build out a compromise using the delegates' ideas, let's hear more.
We do not need a national Bill of Rights in the new Constitution.
We must make sure that there is a Bill of Rights that applies to this new government.
Here's more to consider. Let each state's Bill of Rights protect individual rights. We should move ahead with the current Constitution and come back to this issue after ratification. At the end of the document, we will promise that the new government won't take away any rights. Now that there are some ideas to work with, start building out a compromise that works.
Okay. So, no National Bill of Rights, or we should have a National Bill of Rights. Hold on, let's figure that. He says we don't need it. James Madison. James Madison has been in everyone. I believe he wrote the final draft of the Constitution, and they called the father of the Constitution, so add a Bill of Rights to the Constitution now. Or I think the way it goes is more like this. Say, don't add it, but make a promise to add it later, or something like that. Or is it ratify first, decide it later? No, he's saying that's not good enough. Let's see, what's this one again? Rely on the states. A clear national Bill of Rights. So it's not good enough for the states. So I think this might be the only one that works. I'm not sure.
I see there is now a path forward.
Don't add it, but promise that they won't mess with it. And eventually they do add it.
Let's take a look at how this proposal compares to what actually happened at the convention.
Okay, so I said don't add it, but the actual decision was ratify it and then discuss it later.
Well, you found a path, which is more that could be said of our friends at the convention. These gentlemen were tired after months of nation building and wanted to return home. This decision not to add the Bill of Rights to the Constitution while they were in Philadelphia came back to haunt them. The issue was key during the ratification debates. Promises were made, and in 1791, the first 10 amendments were added.
People differ, and compromise is never easy. Sometimes personal interests and beliefs outweigh a shared goal, and things come to a standstill or impasse. The debates in 1787 did result in a set of compromises that shaped the country we have today. Without those, the convention would have ended without the Constitution.
Okay, so I believe that is the end of the game. You can go through and see what decisions you made and compare it to the way it actually ended up historically. View this little certificate. 40 minutes it took. So anyway, so this has been a constitutional compromise. Just shows lets you decide what path the Constitution can take, and also shows you the historical version of how it went. I do hope you enjoyed watching this game. iCivics has a number of other educational games, as you can see here, on a number of different topics. So it depends on what you want. I originally discovered iCivics and all their games through Flashpoint. This is Flashpoint. Flashpoint is free. The games on Flashpoint are free. As you can see, they have quite a few heroes. Race to Ratify. Unfortunately, Constitutional Compromises, I believe it's only available on their iCivics website. But some similar games on Flashpoint, Argument Wars, in which I think you play a lawyer and you're kind of contesting about constitutional law and other laws and things. There's others here, Lawcraft, so depends on which of these you have some interest in. Another one of the options here, so Jennifer Government, no, wait, this is not, it's actually Jennifer Government Nation State, so it's based on a book called Jennifer Government. I played this game about 20 years ago, around 2005 or 4 or 3 or something, and in it you get to decide basically how to set up a country. Here's their official website. I haven't played it for a long time, but it could be something that you might be interested in. And as far as the Flashpoint archive, it is available at flashpointarchive.org. So there you go. I do hope that you enjoyed Constitutional Compromise. Let me know what you think. How would do you think that the United States Constitution was the best it could have been? I'll give you a little quote, if I can find it. So here's a little tidbit also from the Wikipedia page on the Constitutional Convention. Ultimately, 39 of the 55 delegates who attended, 74 had been chosen from 12 states, ended up signing, but it is likely that none were completely satisfied. Their views were summed up by Benjamin Franklin, who said, "I confess there are several parts of this Constitution which I do not at present approve, but I'm not sure I shall never approve them. I doubt, too, whether any other convention we can obtain may be able to make a better Constitution. It therefore astonishes me, sir, to find this system approaching so near to perfection as it does, and I think it will astonish our enemies." So, at the time, the Britain and other countries were kind of hoping the United States would fall apart. And when the Constitution was created, it kind of assured the continuation, and the Constitution has greatly influenced the entire planet. It created a system of checks and balances. It's very interesting to think about. So I do hope that you enjoyed it. And again, please let me know in the comments. Do you think that do you think you would have come up with the same thing, the Constitution that we have, or do you think you might have changed a few things? Do you think we could have done better? Keeping in mind that there were a lot of parties involved. There were a lot of delegates from the colonies. Some of the colonies wanted slavery, and they would not bend. I believe with the Declaration of Independence, South Carolina said that they would not accept the Declaration of Independence unless slavery was basically passed, was allowed. So it's very, very interesting to think about this sort of thing. Do you think we could have done better, and how might you have done it differently, do you think? Anyway, I do hope you enjoyed the video. This has been Entropy-Defiant Gaming. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, and have a great day.